welcome into another edition of Bama and Bourbon with Aaron Suttles from Alabama. I'm Lance Taylor from the Next Round, where we talk bourbon, we talk Alabama. We are in March, which means March Madness, SEC basketball tournament. Starting up this week in Nashville, we'll both be up there. Bama and Bourbon always brought to you by our friends at the Beverage Place Pink Package. Of course, mybookie.ag. Use that code NEXTROUND. 50% deposit up to $1,000 back. Use the code NEXTROUND. Boy, what a win in Neville on Saturday. That? I didn't see it coming. Look, I mean, Alabama obviously one of the 3, 4, 5 best teams in college basketball. So, they obviously very capable of winning that game. I just thought, senior night in Neville, Auburn was an 8.5-point favorite. I didn't see it playing out like that. It was that high. Yeah. And I think the majority of people liked Alabama plus the points, and they were definitely right. Let's start with Grant Nelson. Yeah. Alabama high 23 points. We had Stephen Pearl, Auburn assistant, on the show earlier today on the Next Round. He talked about he had made like 1 or 2 threes since I forgot what the date was, but they weren't expecting Grant Nelson to play like he did and hitting the 3 threes.
He and a dunk that will live forever.
Oh, gosh.
And a dunk, and I don't want to hear anybody I'm completely over Auburn fans whining about Alabama hitting a Crimson Crane. Like, for some reason, a celebration that 2 Alabama wide receivers did in 2021.
Is it based off of
Auburn has
Cobra Kai? Is it Cobra Kai? Because it seemed like
I don't know where they got it.
Obviously the crane, Ralph Macchio's signature move at the end of Rocky, or Karate Kid from 1984.
They were just looking for something, and Auburn has co-opted it when they played Alabama to sort of rub their noses in it when they beat Alabama. So I don't want to hear any complaints about when they hit it back at you. I mean, they did it in Tuscaloosa earlier this year. Now, if you're going to get into the semantics of it, they're going to say, well, that was after the game. Well, the referees didn't call a tech, so I don't want to hear any complaining.
What a chippy game, though, and obviously...
It should be. It's a rivalry game.
Yeah, look, the dunk over Dylan Cardwell, one of the biggest humans in college basketball.
Who has now been dunked on in the rivalry game by Herb Jones. He's that old that he was dunked on in a rivalry game by Herb Jones and Grant Nelson. Auburn's got the oldest team in basketball.
Hey, yeah, they do. I think we said it's like 11 months on average behind the Oklahoma City Thunder, which might be the best team in the NBA right now.
Good on them, though. They got a good basketball team.
Can you imagine if Herb Jones was on this Bama team?
Look, I was surprised the line was that high. I understand why, given mass psychology. Alabama had a brutal 7-game stretch. Only one of which games they lost I thought they should have won, which was the Tennessee game. I'm still trying to figure out how they lost that one. But all the other games they lost, they were thoroughly beaten. So I get it. But this team was playing with a lot of pride. And I thought despite that Auburn got it into overtime and tied it up late, I thought Alabama controlled the game.
Well, I did too. Yeah, I mean, Alabama, when Chad Baker-Mazar went out, Alabama was up 5 or 7 at that point. But, Alabama back to 15 turnovers. That's what they do. They only hit 7 threes. If you go on the road against Auburn, the number 1 team in the nation, you only hit 7 threes, turn over 15 times, typically lose. They walk out 93-91.
And Mark Sears was heading to overtime.
5 points. Yeah.
If you put that together, I don't think I would have told you they wouldn't have gotten to overtime when they gotten blown out.
That is not a path to victory. Bama and Bourbon, where we obviously talk Alabama sports. We drink a little bourbon. Today's bourbon, we're previewing the Green River.
Not bad.
It's not. And again, the weight of that bottle.
A little horseshoe on the bottom.
Okay, yeah. Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah. So, founded in 1885, Owensboro-based Green River is the 10th oldest distillery licensed in Kentucky. Reintroduced in 2022, Green River distilled, bottled on the same hallowed grounds as well as over a century ago, all in a beautiful reimagined package that evokes aesthetic, heritage, and storied history of this authentic and fascinating brand. 90 proof. Their wheated bourbon, which you don't really see a lot of standout wheated bourbon on the packaging, do you?
No, it's usually they go rye.
Leads with a beautiful peach and caramel aroma.
It's good.
Coupled with apricot, cinnamon. On a palate, you'll find toffee, pastry, hazelnut that guide towards...
It's expanding to my chest.
A honeyed finish that's smooth and balanced. The wheated expression lends itself to easy drinking while holding its own distinct character. I do like this, man. This is another one. So Chan at Beverage Place and Pink Package has done a really good job of bringing us anonymous bourbons
And he said this one's heating up. He said this one's getting a little bit of a name for itself.
Okay. I didn't get a chance to talk to him when he dropped by, but I do like this.
That's good.
So, walk-off Alabama shots. I mean, really the only one I remember. I guess there was one against Southern Illinois. Was it Petway?
In the tournament?
Yeah.
Petway. And then Petway had the Florida one.
The Florida one was the one that really stands out because it was literally at the buzzer, much like Sears was.
See,
it was to win the SEC regular season championship.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I do know Trevor Relaford hit a half quarter to beat Georgia a few years ago.
The significance of this, though, when you beat number one.
Beat Auburn. Yeah, it's Auburn.
I mean, I brought it up, Daniel Moore and New Life Art, they're, one of our sponsors on the next round, but I was like, damn, maybe he paints this.
And what's crazy about, I don't know about you, I didn't love the play call. I thought they got into the action way too late.
I agree with that.
Because what happens if you go under the screen and cut him off? He probably doesn't get a shot off, which at the end of the first half.
Yeah, it's what happened.
Got a horrible shot that got blocked.
Yeah, and I think everybody knew it was going to Sears. Now, the interesting thing was, it looked like what was drawn up by Nate Oates is it was either Sears was going to take the shot or he was going to kick it out
to LeBaron.
Was it LeBaron?
Well, LeBaron came over and handed the ball off, and then he floated out.
See, I thought Holloway was out there.
Oh, maybe it was.
Yeah. And can you imagine if Aiden Holloway hits the game winner to silence the crowd?
I don't want to criticize Coach Oates because he said that the play worked. He didn't think it was his best play call, but I completely agree. We're going to get the last shot. And that was what that was set up to do.
Yeah.
And I also agree with Jimmy Dykes on the broadcast. You cannot let Mark get to his left. As soon as he got,
but still the degree of difficulty on that shot. I mean,
it was a little, but it's a floater. It is difficult, but it's the shot I think. And how ironic is it that Alabama won on a mid-range shot?
Oh, I know. But the last couple of games they've actually been taking and hitting those shots a little bit. I just thought when Broome hit the three to tie it up with 18 seconds or whatever was left.
14 seconds, yeah.
I was like, damn, the momentum is definitely going Auburn now. I think Auburn will ultimately win this one in double overtime. But what a hell of a win. Alabama had 52 points in the paint, 18 second chance points. They've been great on the boards all year. Yeah, this Alabama team, if you don't have the defensive lap where you give up 100-plus points, they're going to be a damn tough out. It seems like it's up and down how we are on this team.
Which is crazy because the game before, they got absolutely trounced on the boards by Florida.
Yep.
Florida just manned them up, and which was weird because Alabama, as you mentioned, has been a really good rebounding team. They got back to that at Neville Arena, and I just thought it was everything a rivalry game should be. There was the pettiness, there was the trash talk on both sides. There's the chippiness between Chris Youngblood and Chad Baker-Mazara. I thought it was a phenomenal basketball game.
What is your expectation, and not that it really matters what's going to happen in Nashville. I say that. Now, with Alabama winning on Saturday in Neville, now they're back in consideration for the one line. And I do think, until we pulled these numbers on the next round a couple of weeks ago, I would have said, there's not much difference in a 1 and 2. But historically, ones get to Final Fours, ones win national championships, twos not nearly the success. So there is something to that. But if Alabama was to win this tournament this weekend, I think they are the solid fourth four.
Who gets kicked out?
So right now we know it's Auburn, Duke, Houston.
Yeah.
So to me it's Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, maybe Michigan State.
I think Tennessee doesn't have a shot.
Well, then it's probably Alabama or Florida.
I think Florida's got the head-to-head. I think Florida's playing really well.
But if Alabama was to win this tournament, you think Alabama would be that team?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I think they would.
I think that what we've seen from past committees is they've
already decided.
They've already decided, and that the tournaments don't really mean that much.
I just don't know how you can do that.
Maybe it changes because of how historically good the SEC is.
Now, again, back to Stephen Pearl, he was like, if we don't get the number 1 overall seed, there's no reason these metrics even matter moving forward when you talk about quad 1 wins and what Auburn has stacked up to what Duke has stacked up. But I do think it's back in play that Duke gets the number 1 overall. They've got 3 losses to Auburn's 4. Conference is night and day difference, no doubt.
I look, all due respect to Duke, which I thought had a horrible look on social media. I don't know if you guys talked about this, when they're going out whining that their coach didn't get Coach of the Year in the ACC. I thought it was a pathetic tweet that stuff that blue blood programs usually don't whine about stuff like that.
I didn't even see, did Pat Kelsey get it from Louisville?
Yeah.
Yeah, he had to.
Yeah. And they basically went into, it was ridiculous that Coach K didn't win in his last 22 years.
Yeah.
So,
well, look, there's blinders from a lot of 19, 20-year-old kids.
But my point is, Auburn's done more. Now, look, Duke has the head-to-head, I thought Auburn played a great game in that game they lost there.
Yeah.
But Auburn's resume is, I mean, just put it beside Duke's and see which one's better.
But if it wasn't Duke, if it was any other brand,
not even close, right?
Yeah, it wouldn't be close.
Not
But
even
because
close.
it is Duke, much like Cooper
And
Flag.
I agree with Steven. Like, if you're not gonna, what's the point of scheduling that hard if you're not gonna be rewarded? I mean, I think Auburn is by far and away clearly what they've proven is that they should be the number 1 overall seed.
Okay, so back to Alabama though,
Yeah.
getting a 1 seed. Would you rather see, because the teams that participated in Sunday's championship matchup last year, Auburn and Florida, both got bounced in the first round.
Yeah.
So, there is a correlation to teams that go deep in some of these conference tournaments not having a lot of success once you get to the next round.
I'd rather have fresh legs, if we're being honest.
But would you rather have fresh legs as a 2 seed, or would you rather take it all the way to Sunday if you could get that 1 seed? Because I do think there is something about getting a 1 seed. Outside of that, I think that's the only thing that matters in this tournament is either Florida, Alabama, still possibly Tennessee, getting a 1 seed.
The deciding factor is something you can't know ahead of time, which is who's in your bracket. Like, I've seen Alabama projected as the 2 in Houston's bracket, but they also have St. John's. I would want nothing to do with St. John's.
Well, you want something to do with Houston just based on the
'cause you beat 'em.
success that Oates has had against Kelvin
But I would want
Sampson.
nothing to do with Rick Pitino, who's had a lot of success versus Nate Oates.
Yeah. Bama and Bourbon brought to you by our friends at Beverage Place, located next to the PGA Superstore on Highway 280. Pink Package, located across from the Target next to Arby's on Highway 280. One-stop shops, liquor, beer, seltzers, wine, sodas, mixers, cigars, ice, even fresh lemons and limes. Get in, see JJ Channel, the fine folks. Make sure you tell them the guys from Bama and Bourbon sent you. Again, we are sipping the Green River.
Green River.
I'd never had. I'll have
heard of
again, though.
Never heard of it, and it's only 90 proof.
It's got a little more pop than 90.
Yeah, I feel like that.
Yeah,
I feel that.
and maybe that is the wheated bourbon that we're talking about, because normally you talk about the ryes have that little spice kick to them. But yeah, this has got a lot of flavor. I don't know what the price point is. Probably need to start finding this out before we go live. I'm going to guess $50 to $60.
It's got a unique bottle, and the fact that Chan told me ahead of time that it's getting a little of a name for itself, I could see it being a little more expensive.
Did I ask you about Sears Place in Alabama history last year?
But we've talked about it before.
I do want to ask you because it came up on the show and I forgot, and I think it might have been after we recorded this last week. But, where is he? Is he in that, which I think for sure, we talked to Reese Davis about this too, is he in that starting 5 all-time for Alabama? Is the Mount Rushmore, whatever you want to look at? I mean, where is, and I know it's incomplete because there could be another massive chapter.
I think we have to have this discussion with some filters on it in terms of we're judging them based on what they did in college and not projecting onto what their professional career. And if we're basing it strictly on what they did in
Which is so
college,
tough to do.
It is. Then there's no question he's on that list.
It could really ultimately be the best ever, right?
It might be the best. That's what I'm saying. It might be the best, which is weird to think about a guy that started his career elsewhere. But, I mean, what has he now been twice first-team All-SEC, one time second-team All-SEC, was on the team that was on the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament, was on the first team that went to the Final Four. I mean, they've been number 1 multiple years. They just knocked off number 1. He's doing things at a time in Alabama's program, stuff that's never been done before. That has to factor into it because he's been a big part of that. And the thing that's going to ding him a little bit is, the 0 points and the issues that we've seen this year that's popped up and the controversy. But I think Nate Oates said it after the game. If you haven't seen it, we got exclusive video in the locker room inside Neville Arena. And Nate Oates is basically saying, not a typical game from Sears, but I'll take 9 points in the game winner over number 1 all the time.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Look, he played 40 minutes. He had 7 assists, so he was very active.
And he's been much better defensively lately.
Yeah, and he's not turning the basketball over like he was turning the basketball over. But to have the game winner, to have the 7 assists, it's not one of his 30-plus point games he's had. But if they're going to make the run that they made last year, obviously he's going to be a big factor in that. But if they go back to a Final Four, I think you can almost slam dunk it. He is the best player in Alabama basketball.
I think he's certainly right now in the conversation, and I would lean that way based on his accomplishments in college. And by the way, forget the anchor's name. I believe she's out of Huntsville. Maybe she's in Birmingham. But she was shooting from the baseline when Mark hits that. He runs right into her frame, crosses his arm and goes, "That's game."
Oh, I haven't seen it.
It's the coldest shot I've ever seen ever. I mean,
well, you know what's crazy? So I was watching it at walk-ons, and it was a massive crowd. And, I mean, you could tell, at least from my point of view, where I was sitting, you probably the same on the couch, like, there was no reason. They're going to review it, but there was no reason.
No,
like, it was 1,000% over.
Yeah.
And so I think at that point, you could celebrate if you're serious in the Alabama team, but... Man, that was a cold-blooded shot.
Left-hand floater, goes to the baseline, crosses his arm, and says, "That's game." I mean, it was just a perfect basketball game if you're Alabama. And if you're Auburn, it was just a great college basketball game between two rivals on the last day of the regular season. And I credit Auburn for fighting, man. There was really moments of that game they might have given up. You know, Chad Baker gets kicked out. Alabama goes up 8, I think, or 7 or 8 after those free throws. And then they fight back, man. They just kept fighting back, and the crowd was into it, and Alabama didn't go away. I mean, I thought there were several times that Auburn had the chance to take the momentum with that crowd behind them. Like, there's no way Alabama can match this. It was a great basketball game.
You were talking about some of the material you guys have at Yay, Alabama. Yeah. How can people get on board, continue to bring in transfers like Mark Sears, like Clifford Amore, that we didn't even talk about, 7 of 7 from the field. So good.
Might have been his best game.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah. He caught that one in overtime that got blocked, and he was so quick with a dunk. I mean, I thought he had a great game. But if you want to support Alabama athletics, the most efficient way to do it, and that results in success on the field, on the court, is Yay-Alabama. Yay-Alabama.com. We got exclusive videos from locker rooms. We get exclusive video from the practice field. Alabama getting ready. They're off this week, obviously, for spring practice, but they'll start up again next week. So a lot of great content there. I hope that you join us, and also know that you're helping the program while you're doing it.
And Bama and Bourbon always brought to you by our friends at mybookie.ag. March Madness is here. Use that code next round. 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. Before we get out, first week, spring practice in the books. Anything that really jumped to you? Biggest storyline coming out? I mean, obviously, Ryan Grubb being back, quarterback battle. Those are going to be highlights, but anything else that really jumped?
I think we talked about this last week, just how smart I think Ryan Grubb is. And I think that's going to pay dividends for Alabama. And no matter which direction the quarterback battle goes, which I know always that's going to be the biggest storyline. I also think, wide receivers, they're in a better position this year than they were last year. They brought in Isaiah Horton. They got a freshman that I know everybody's excited about. I think it's Latsier. I think that's how you say his name. Latsier Brooks from New Jersey.
Well, I love easy names, don't you?
I'm always horrible with names. I still can't say the Greek freak's name.
Antetokounmpo.
I can't say it.
Can you imagine, though, if you were like the play-by-play guy for like BYU or Utah with all the Samoans and Polynesian players they've got coming in?
No shot. But no, so I think while not ideal, I do think that them being so thin at inside linebacker right now, with Justin Jefferson on the shelf, obviously Deontay Lawson on the shelf, with some injuries they're getting through, like, it's a forced depth being built around them. And I think that's going to pay dividends for them at inside linebacker. And a guy that I thought he had a good season last year. He was never going to be asked to be a star, but I think he's just going to be a quintessential leader. I think he's going to lead a lot of young safeties to be ready to play, and I think he's going to be a fan favorite. I think Bray Hubbard. Listen, white guys are having a moment in sports, right? You have a white corner picking off a pick six and
what was the last? Was it John Magnum? What was?
John Magnum. Vinny Cincinnati back there.
Yeah, but more of a safety, right?
Yeah.
Like never really played corner.
And Bray's a corner safety.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I say that in jest because we always make fun of white defensive backs, but no, I think Bray took advantage. He was a special teams guy last year, and then Keon gets hurt, Malachi got a little banged up, and so he was forced into it. And he started becoming a playmaker, and his teammates are really responding to him. Talking to Jason Jones, the safeties coach, he's the leader back there. Now, Keon is out, obviously, and Keon coming back will help with that. But I think there's several positions I think Alabama's got good competition in. And some of these injuries, while not great for developing some chemistry as guys are going to be playing together, it's going to force some other guys to get those advanced reps that's going to be necessary to build depth around it.
Okay, next week, Bama and Bourbon, we will know where the field is, where Alabama is, whether it's a 1-2, what region they're going to, where they're going to play. So,
but they're locking it at 2 after that.
Oh, yeah.
100% locking it at 2.
Yeah. So, Bama and Bourbon will be talking more about the NCAA field next week.
Have you guys picked your punishment yet? Are you guys doing a punishment?
Yeah, we're going to do one. We don't know what it is. I thought last year's was really weak. We've done some great ones in the past.
What was last year?
Last year's Dunaway had to go to like 5 different D1 schools and make.
How many years you guys been doing this?
Oh God, 14, 15.
So you start running out of ideas eventually.
You do.
Because there's great ideas that sometimes don't get picked, so they get chopped. Do you bring those back?
But like I mean, we should because like you said, there's only so many. Like so I've lost twice. The first one was our first ever, and I had to dress up like the Flash, which was kind of silly.
I think I've seen a picture of that.
But
back in the old Jocks days,
the first one we did here on the new platform on the next round, I lost, and that's when they sent me out west. Me and my daughter, Leighton, went out. And
was that planes, trains, and automobiles?
We had we flew to a destination unknown. We had to take train,
that seems
bus,
kind of fun.
and
especially with your daughter. You can
it was
a
awesome.
bonding thing.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, it was, I guess, a punishment. We missed our flight to Salina and Kansas, and we ended up at the
because
Waldorf.
You incur these punishments at your own expense, right?
Yeah.
That sucks.
I know. Yeah.
Do you get to write that off on your taxes?
That is part of it. Yeah. I mean, look, we did incur.
It's legitimately a work thing.
Yeah, we did. Now we incurred cost of that, some of that, most of that, I should say, that one. But there have been others where we've had to pay for. Yeah. Well,
it's one of my favorite things. I'm looking forward to see what you guys do this year.
I lost a weird in-season football bet years ago where I had to go to Amish country up to Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And the weird thing was the winner of that bet had to pay the loser's way. So if I would have won, I was sending...
So you lose either way.
This is back when Grant Nelson would have been in middle school. I was sending Dunaway to Devil's Lake, North Dakota. Yeah. And just randomly, that's the place I picked on the map for him. And they ended up sending me to Amish country.
All right.
Just very random
I'm
stuff.
looking forward to it.
So we'll give you an update on our bracket punishment. Special thanks to our friends at the Collective, Yay Alabama. Yep. Again, how can they get on board there?
Yay-alabama.com. You know, Alabama's, we need all the support we can get. And so we're doing so with experiences that we build in for you and some content that you can't get anywhere else.
Bama and Bourbon, also brought to you by The Beverage Place, Pink Package, right off of Highway 280. Get in, see Chan, JJ. Everything you need, liquor, beer, seltzers, wines, sodas, mixers, cigars, ice, even fresh lemons and limes. They open early, they close late. Special thanks right here for our Green River, which was very, very good. Yep. Like, subscribe, give us a thumbs up right here on Cover Crimson. We would appreciate that. We'll be back next week, I should say, with more basketball talk and where Alabama is heading.